Hello and welcome back, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. My name is Voodoo Val, and I'm going to be your host for another epic Adobe Express segment. And I am joined this morning by my new best friend, Justin Wynn. How are you doing, Justin?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. No complaints. How about you?
I'm doing excellent. I'm excited to get to know you and kind of dive into what we're going to be working on this morning. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about the project and everything we're going to be kind of diving into?
Yeah, I feel like I know you already. We were just talking about like Minecraft and Roblox a little bit before we
Yeah.
jumped on. And that kind of leads into how we got to, or how I got to where I am right now. So I love gaming growing up. And I loved didn't love college, but loved the process of going through college and figured out these cheat codes to find internships
Cheat
and jobs.
codes.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where that branding comes from. And so I created declassified media about 2 years ago. And essentially, if you've ever seen Overtime Sports or like BuzzFeed, we're creating that sort of content, but specifically for college kids, navigating from college into their career. So we're on like TikTok, Instagram, yada, yada, yada. And then recently we launched our Snapchat show. And so we've been reiterating on a bunch of like different Snapchat thumbnails, because that's one of the most important things when you do have a Snapchat show. And that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Awesome. I'm pumped for it. Also, I see we've got some friends in the chat. It's good to see you, Sean and Wade and Michelle. Thank you all for joining us. So let's dive into it. Let's pull it all up and figure out what's next.
Yeah. So we're just going to start off with just, again, basic creating the dimensions. It's going to be your standard 1080 by 1920. And I do know I talk fast sometimes. So if someone knows that or if someone notices that I'm talking too fast, please let me know about in the comments. Feel free to be as transparent as possible.
I will. But just a quick reminder on that note, if anyone does want to re-listen to something or rewatch something, there are always the replays.
Totally, exactly. So I've already preloaded some of these thumbnails into, or like things that we're going to be using for the thumbnails in here. And the first one that we're going to be using is this one from this video that we did about around the Easter. Well, all of these videos were from Easter, and we're repurposing these for Snapchat right now. And so this was our Easter giveaway video. And basically we went on campus. We're asking kids like college focused questions. So I think for his question, it was, how many credits do you have to be a full-time student in college? And if you get it right, then you get to pick from like the winner Easter basket. So we're going to try to figure out a way to encompass all of that into this thumbnail. And so you might be asking, like, why is this important? And from a designer's standpoint, I think it's very important to know why something is important so you can design for that. And so when you're looking at Snapchat, the way that it works, if you're not familiar with Snapchat shows, if you swipe left on your screen one time, you're going to see your friend's stories at the top of your phone. And then after that, you're going to see some Snapchat shows. And from there, that's what you're competing with, right? So other people's Snapchat shows. And the only thing that you've got to compete is this thumbnail right here. So especially for our demographic, which is trying to get in front of the college kid or the late high school student, we're competing with a lot of clickbait. So it's like, how do we get educational content in front of these kids that are getting in front of like the Jake Pauls of the world, the Mr. Beast, yada, 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 that are flinging money around. Yeah. And so this is what we did this is what we're going to be doing for this week's Snapchat thumbnail. So the first thing that I like to do with this is just remove the background, just because I want to isolate this guy. And the reason that I took this screenshot is because he's making like an interesting facial expression. It's kind of like a little bit of intrigue there of like, whoa, what's going on? And now you've got like another hand coming in. So coming in from the bottom, you're moving the person's eyes like upwards a little bit. So they're going to hopefully stay on this thumbnail. And then you've got an Easter basket and you're like, why the heck is there an Easter basket in this thing? So you're immediately getting these people, whoever is coming across this thumbnail, to think about what is going on here. There's a mic, there's an Easter basket. This guy's going, whoa, 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 with his hand, which hopefully gets you to stay and want to click on this thing. So from a design standpoint, that's what we're going to do here.
Awesome.
The second thing that you always want to keep into consideration is on Snapchat, they always have like the bottom, which is like the bottom fifth of the page is where your headline or title will go. And that's
Okay.
the second most important thing of your like to get your click-through rate for Snapchat to go through the roof. And we'll be going over more about like what to think about from a headline standpoint for Snapchat tomorrow. So make sure to tune in if you're listening today, tomorrow, same time, to learn more about like exactly what goes into creating the best headline. But for just today's standpoint, just gonna put like a placeholder essentially. So again, you can design around that to make sure that you're always understanding what's going to be on your screen and things of that nature. So I just like, you can get the exact text, which I believe is like Avenir, but I just like to put a placeholder in there. So for this, I'm just going to put like,
just so you can visualize, how everything will come together in the end. That's great.
Exactly. Right. Because the worst thing is like you create something that looks great and then you've got this headline that you auto randomly have to put in there. And you're like, oh, wait, this doesn't even fit everything. So the font default on, I don't think you're able to change it on Snapchat is white. So you just got to make sure it's white. And then you also want to make sure that it can be seen, right? So like if we had a completely white background, it might not be easy to be seen. But also on Snapchat, again, another thing that you just want to visualize what's going to happen on here. If you just go to shapes, what they typically do for like the bottom fifth of the page is they'll put like a little transparent block in behind to make the text stand out a little bit more.
Gotcha.
So again, this is going to be pre-populated, so you won't have to actually worry about the design of it. But I just like to put it in there so that I understand what it could kind of look like with the proper like Snapchat placeholders and things of that nature.
Yeah, and you've kind of done this at the very beginning before you really start detailing certain things, because as you said, knowing that all that stuff is going to be down there, you don't want to design something that looks awesome only to find that when you upload it, half of it's covered and all of that good stuff. And to your point at the beginning of our stream, like you're competing with a lot of different thumbnails, and this has got to be like the best that you can make it. So having those things in place and planning ahead is great.
Exactly, 100%. So again, this might be a different shade of black, right, when it actually pops up. But again, we're just using this as a placeholder. And as you can see, even with the background, that white heading is still like hard to see a little bit. And some people might say, oh, but the pink Easter bunny basket is covered up. And like, yes, it's covered up, but it's also pink. So it'll still draw your attention to it. The text isn't covering it like crazy. So we'll just keep it like that. But what we're going to do now is there is another segment of this episode with his girlfriend. So I took another screenshot of this and I'm going to remove the background here, and shout out to Adobe Express's background remover because it is phenomenal. I don't have that much designer skills. I don't have Photoshop skills, but like, as you can see, literally just takes all of the background that I needed off of there. Even around like her phone and everything, which is great. And so it's like, okay, what can we do here? Obviously, I don't want this all right in there, but I'm just going to turn it around a little bit, expand her briefly, and then cut her arm off. Let's see if I can turn it a little bit.
So you're just kind of, going through and really building a scene here that is kind of, honestly, in a way, creating a thumbnail for YouTube or Snapchat or whatever, I feel like is like making a static image trailer, of what you can expect. So maybe for those of you in the chat who are watching, as you go to do your own projects, kind of think about maybe some of the highlights of your video that would grab attention, but you don't want to do, and I would love to know your thoughts on this, Justin, what you don't want to do is the scary movie cover problem, and that is you don't want to show the monster on the front, you don't want to spoil the big amazing portion of it, so you probably want to keep some wow moments in the pocket, so that there's something interesting to see in the video, still to discover, but some key points from your video, snag those and see if you can do what Justin's doing and kind of build a scene, make something interesting.
Yeah, so it's like, how do you, like, the psychology of a thumbnail, right?
Mhm.
Is how do you tell the whole story in one static image
Mhm.
without, again, giving away everything? So in this video, again, I'll give you a little bit more context just to kind of go over it again.
Mhm.
This guy, we stop him randomly on campus. We ask him a question. If he gets it right, he gets to pick from a prize from the winner basket.
Mhm.
So how do we tell that in one story? So we've got a mic, right? So immediately you know that he's talking to someone in some way, shape, or form, right?
Being
Um,
interviewed.
Interviewed, right? Most
Mhm.
likely. That's probably what's going to go through your mind.
Mhm.
He's got this whoa, whoa, whoa sort of stance
Mhm.
with his arm and reaching out to this basket. So you're like, what is kind of going on here? And
Mhm.
then this is where like the clickbaity element to this kind of comes from. And
Mhm.
I think a lot of people get the clickbait portion wrong.
Mhm.
So again, a lot of people think of clickbait of like, how do I make this thing more extravagant or as crazy sounding as possible to get
Mhm.
someone to click on? And while that is true, the issue, which is the secondary part of content overall, is if you
Mhm.
can't deliver on that clickbait title or thumbnail, then people aren't going to stay and watch your video, which means
Yep.
your total view watch time is going to be lower, which means whatever algorithm that you're playing with, whether that's Snapchat, TikTok, YouTube, whatever it may be, they're not going to push it out if people aren't going to watch your video all the way to the end,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you need to make sure everything aligns from your thumbnail to the content that you're actually putting out. And
And is
so
that not the pet peeve of people watching content like this, seeing the thumbnail and then never getting that, and then probably not coming back to that content creator again? So, be as honest as possible is what I'm getting from that, but also make it snappy, make it, interesting, make me want to click on it.
exactly. And we're going to go over like a couple examples of like a little bit more clickbaity versus a little less clickbaity and how we can make it
Mhm.
still make it interesting. So
Awesome.
with this one, like we've got two hands and you can clearly tell that they're not the same person. And it seems like it's two girls, right? So
Hmm.
it's like a little bit like what's going on here. You got one girl touching him on the side, you got another girl giving him something. So what's going on
Hmm.
there from a relationship potential standpoint? So
Hmm.
that's why we wanted to add his girlfriend in here.
Hmm.
This just happens to be one of our members on Declassified giving him the basket to choose an egg from. So that's why we added that. Again, that's a little clickbaity, but it still is relevant to the overall story
Hmm.
of it. So now we got all this white space, and you just don't want to leave this white space here. And we could have used a background with like the woods that we originally shot and in the scene. And like what you can see is this is what it would have looked like. Again, if we had just taken everything in there, this is what it would have with like the wooded area. But I
Hmm.
don't think that's great for this sort of video. So I'm just going to use Adobe stock that's already in here and just look up like college campus
Awesome.
and
Adobe
see.
Stock in Express is so useful. Just you don't have to leave the page. You can find everything you need right there.
Exactly. And so the one thing that you have to keep an eye out for when you're creating thumbnails, whether this is for Instagram stories or TikTok thumbnails or whatever it may be, is
Hmm.
when you're using the stock footage, is make sure you're trying to find like the ones that are the longest, like
Hmm.
vertically. Because if you like, for instance, if I use this one, right,
Hmm.
and I just click here and I said add to background, it gets a little blurry and like, yes, it should reorient a little bit
Hmm.
better, but the bigger the photo that you choose, usually the more clear it can get. So I'm going to try and find a good one that like resembles college campus. Let's see if we just go this. Let's just look.
Oh, nice.
So here we go. Like, right. So like a little college campus, little fall action. You
Hmm.
got an Easter bunny, and then it looks kind of all put together a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Move that down a little bit just so to cover the edge. But yeah, so here we got a thumbnail, right? Got some leaves going on, bright pink, and
Hmm.
then you've got two people holding on there to hopefully tell the story of here's an Easter giveaway, essentially, right? And
Yeah.
who knows what's going to happen, and hopefully that makes you want to click through. So Val, what are kind of like your thoughts on this so far, that what you're seeing?
I really love the video, like the, just the what you've put in the background, because I feel like it works really well. The bottom half of the visuals here is darker, which allows for that Snapchat headline, placeholder to really pop from the bottom a lot better than before. But I feel like the brightness of those leaves, it really contrasts well with your subject matter, which leads the eye, as you were saying, like from the arm up to him, and kind of shows you like, boom, what's happening here. I feel like it does tell a story, and it also, there's nothing happening here that I feel like I can't see very well,
Awesome.
So excellent choice.
Thank you. So that's exactly kind of like what we want to get through this sort of thumbnail. So the way that Snapchat works is you usually get to, they advise you to put 4 thumbnails for the show that you end up releasing, so that they can recycle and use their own algorithms to pick the best one. So we always like to create as many as possible.
Okay.
So that's why we're going to be using this one. Same video, just a different guy. So I've already gone and removed the background, so we don't have to go through that whole process. But as you can see, we've got 2 mics here. And we could probably use some crazy Photoshop skills to get rid of this, but I'm just going to keep it in there to add to the effect of like, maybe someone who's listening or watching this is like, what the heck is going on right here? And add that like questioning effect. So we're going to add him. And again, we're going to blow him up a little bit just so we can see his face more. And then we're going to so this is JC. He's the talent for our show. We're going to turn him around and come in from the corner of like, so he's kind of like speaking to him.
Side note, I am living for this hat. This is beautiful.
Yeah, so we went on Amazon, we grabbed the Easter bunny hats. Again, getting to the point of like what the heck is actually going on in this in this imagery right now. So we're gonna go and we're gonna add in the text. I've never tried this before. I wonder, does this work on Zoom?
Just to try. Oh,
it does.
Amazing. Copy paste from various project tabs, y'all.
Love that. All right, so just so that's there. Boom. This white. This is white.
And I feel like you've done a great job with this specifically, because obviously we're going to do, kind of what we did with the last thumbnail where we're working to tell a story. But I feel like you've also, ahead of all of this, you've chosen the imagery content to use as a focal point. You've chosen things that are very entertaining to look at. Like my first thought right when you pulled this project out was that hat. I got to know what are they doing with this hat, So I really do love that you're not only talking about, how to do what you're doing here, but also kind of, like you said, the psychology behind why you're making certain decisions. And as you go through this, aside from the idea of how to tell the story and things like that, what else are you sort of thinking about? We talked a little bit about the algorithms of how your platform works, the service you're using to show this. But is there anything else that you keep in mind or advice you might offer to those looking to do this as well that you feel are like a must know, must do sort of thing as you go through this process?
Yeah, I think a lot of this is trial and error, right? As much as we would like to think that we're experts in thumbnails, content, whatever it may be, it's a lot of trial and error. But with that, what we've learned from trial and error is you want to make sure, again, you can see it in this one especially, like a facial expression that is welcoming is typically good. Or like, again, if your content is like agonizing content, then maybe like an agonizing face, it makes sense, right? Whatever is appropriate for your specific content. Because again, if we had like a sad face here, but then the content is of him answering a question and winning $20, it wouldn't make sense and you wouldn't be able to deliver on that thumbnail. And
Gotcha.
that's kind of the psychology that you want to think about when you're creating these thumbnails, as I try to use some Photoshop skills to remove this mic just to see what it would look like.
Yeah, I like that you're kind of masking things out here. I almost wondered if they would be too close together if you tried to line up the mic from the bunny hat guy with where the mic is on the picture, and see if you can make it look like he's like tiny and he's like leaning in, like, sir, we have a question for you.
Let's see, can we do that? Let's see. Let's play
Like
around.
if we rotate it, it might be, I was thinking maybe the bunny ears would be too close and just wouldn't work. So I tried.
But what if we go?
That's hilarious.
It's just us, we're just messing around, right? But if we put him behind, that kind of works.
Oh, and then it looks like, and then you could mask out just that little portion of the arm, and it still looks like his hand because it's from the same angle, the same direction. He's like whispering in his ear, sir, I have a question for you.
Please
I love
speak
it.
into the mic.
Yeah. Just as a heads up, we do have maybe 5 or 6 minutes left here. But folks in the chat, if you have any questions or anything that you would like to ask, please go ahead and post it so that I can take a look. But otherwise, I think we'll just keep kind of trucking through here. But yeah, I feel like this is really great information because would you say that the planning for, like, knowing that you're going to eventually come to this step in your process where you're creating the thumbnail content, would you say that the planning for creating a great thumbnail starts while you're making the content itself? You know, like when you start to do it, like do you plan for shots that could go into the thumbnail?
So especially for like long form content where you're spending a lot of time planning of like what's actually going to be going on, I think it's incredibly important. And I've seen like all the big YouTubers talk about this, where they'll actually come up with the thumbnail and the title before they actually go out and shoot.
Wow.
So that's a different very different mindset than how like traditional movies or anything else is kind of created. Like if you listen to Mr. Beast talk, Ryan Trahan is actually like one of the hottest YouTubers right now with his new series, which is around basically, I think he's trying to travel the length of the US while also living on only a penny a day for 30 days.
What?
Yeah, it's a very super interesting series. But he said that he came up with the thumbnails before he even started traveling to save him time, but also it gave him content ideas just in case he ran out of content ideas.
Wow.
So that's if we're talking super like 4D chess mindset, that's what some of the biggest YouTubers do. So here's like, again, I just threw this photo in the background. We could probably find a better one, but I just wanted to throw this in here so I can get to this last kind of like final point, which is like thumbnails don't always stay the same. And this is a post from Mr. Beast Manager. And these are all on the left side are all of his old thumbnails, and on the right side are all of his new ones. So if you're looking at, like, you have to constantly be staying up to date of what is being the best in terms of thumbnails. And there's no one better to look at than someone like a Mr. Beast, where, I mean, I know people that work on his team. He has probably 3 or 4 people just working on thumbnails on his videos. So they're the ones doing the research. So you can see like how he's changed this from a very dark background to adding reds and yellows and like an excited face. You can see the excited face or the sad faces in every single video. He's changed the color of this from white to yellow, from blue to yellow. So maybe there's a correlation of you want yellow in your thumbnail, and he's changed this all sky background to a green and blue sky. So these are all things that you want to take into consideration to your last question of like, what are things or like best practices, is always look at what the best creators are doing. because if they're doing something, they probably have people that are spending tens of thousands of dollars figuring it out. And so
Mm-hmm.
don't copy, of course, right? But just look at some of the elements that they're using and
Mm-hmm.
incorporate it into your own stuff.
That's really great advice. I feel like there's so much that you've taught us just in this 30 minutes about, not only using Adobe Express, but kind of jumping into the why and the how of making this. I feel like now my YouTube channel is going to be lit. Like everyone's going to want to click my videos because now I've got like the thumbnail 101. So we're going to be back tomorrow, folks, with another segment kind of diving into some other things. And I'm really excited to just hear more from you and learn more from you on this. But it's been a blast today. We do unfortunately have to take off. We're going to miss you, but we will be back tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining me, Justin. This is a blast.
No, thank you. Thank you. Shout out to Adobe for having me for this. I'm excited. I can't wait for tomorrow.
Yeah, me too. Well, thank you all so much for watching. Please stay tuned because we always have awesome, epic content happening here. And we will see you folks next time. Adios, everybody.
Bye.